just ignore the self-doubt and you keep on going. But it's so interesting how you can realize that there will always be this self-doubt, and the only thing that you can actually do is keep on going, just never stop going towards your goal. But also you can actually listen out for the self-doubt, for the voice of self-doubt, and see if there's any truth in it. Welcome everyone to LifewithLiza podcast. Our mission at LifewithLiza is to share people's stories and the challenges that they have overcome, so that those who are listening in can get the strength, the courage, and the hope to be their better selves. And today I am doing another solo episode, and I'll be a guest sharing my stories. And I wanted to thank you for showing up and listening to this episode. I hope it does bring you lots of value. I think the topic of this episode is something that all of us face, and inevitably is so important to discuss. So the topic is, and the theme for this episode is self-doubt, and how the self-doubt is always meeting us on our journey to success. So I was just recently thinking, isn't it interesting that with whatever we set out to do, with some time passing, we always start doubting ourselves, and we start doubting whether we have made the right choice, or whether it will ever actually work out. So even with this challenge that I'm currently doing, which is basically me releasing one episode a day for the next 100 days, also self-doubt started creeping in, and the questions like the following ones started popping in my mind. For example, is this even realistic? Do I have good topics to talk about for the next 100 episodes? Whom am I kidding that I can pull that off? Who is even interested in listening to 100 episodes from me? And all of these kind of questions start entering my mind. And it's so interesting that I learned how self-doubt is basically an inevitable step. And the only thing that I can do is just close my ears off to the self-doubt, and to basically keep on going and keep on showing up and continuously make progress. Just release another episode, and then another episode, and then another episode. And then at one point, then the self-doubt just goes away and you're back into your confident self. You're like, oh my God, I'm changing the world, I'm making an impact. And then when the self-doubt comes in, you just do the same mechanism. You just ignore the self-doubt and you keep on going. But it's so interesting how you can realize that there will always be this self-doubt, and the only thing that you can actually do is keep on going, just never stop going towards your goal. But also you can actually listen out for the self-doubt, for the voice of self-doubt, and see if there's any truth in it. For example, in the statements that I was mentioning, when I was saying that, for example, will I have important enough topics to talk about for the next 100 episodes? I can always see, this is actually a challenge. I need to be prepared. I need to prepare a new topic for every episode. That's a lot of knowledge. And then I can ask myself, how can I actually ensure that I do have that much information? And then I can see and I can start solving that problem and looking for ways for it. Because I think that often self-doubt could have the seeds of truth embedded in it, and that's why it also gets to us, because in some way it is true, but we can extract the good things out of the self-doubt. But the important thing is to always keep on going. And another thing that helps me also to deal with self-doubt is to remember the previous cases where I did have self-doubt, but I continued going, and then in the end eventually it actually did work out. And with things like looking for a job, and then when you, for example, get rejections, and then you start doubting yourself, and will you ever find a job? And then you remember, I was there, I've had this experience, I doubted myself, and in the end it did work out because I kept on going. Or for example, when I bought the one-way tickets to Paris, after I finished my studies, I was back in Ukraine, and then I just realized that I no longer want to stay in Ukraine. I want to move back to Europe. But then I had no plan. I just bought a one-way ticket to Paris, and I just thought that I'll figure it out along the way. But then when I was in Paris, the self-doubt started creeping in, because you are doing something which is a bit outside of your comfort zone. You're pursuing your goals and your dreams, and that's exactly the perfect recipe for the self-doubt to come in. And then the self-doubt is like, are you sure you made the right move? Do you think you can pull it off? Do you think it is possible? And then in the end, it still did work out. And now, whenever I start doubting myself, I try to remind myself of all of the successes that I did have and where it did work out. And then the third piece of puzzle to all of this is then sometimes, as you can also imagine your future self looking back at you now and saying some encouraging words. And some of the encouraging words that really help me, that I imagine my future self saying, is looking at when my future self looks at me and I'm doubting myself, and my future self says, if only you knew that how much potential you've got in you and how far you will come, you would have never doubted yourself, and you would not even be here sitting and doubting yourself. And then it's always so interesting, because this gives you perspective. This shows how much further you can go, and to receive this imaginary encouragement from your future self is already sometimes something that you need to burst through the self-doubt. But out of all these three pieces of advice, I would say the biggest one is to just keep on going, because whatever dream you have, whatever goal you have, you'll always have self-doubt. Everyone has it. Everyone. Even the most successful people, even the people who have already succeeded so many times, they still have self-doubt. If you watch interviews with the most successful entrepreneurs, actors, singers, whatever profession, they still doubt themselves. But I think what they've learned is to keep on going despite the self-doubt. And that's the message that I wanted to send to you, to someone who is doubting themselves maybe in this very moment, and that's why you're watching this video. It's okay to doubt yourself. Look for the truth and for the useful bits in your self-doubt, but never stop going, and keep going towards your goals, because you'll get there, and and as I mentioned, self-doubt will always be there. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I see you tomorrow.